Hello everyone. It has been a long time since we have had our computer class. So we are going to begin our computer class after the vacations with the computer book. Before the vacations, we have had classes on subjects which I had presented to you through various presentations. Now what we are going to do is we are going to follow the book. Okay. In fact, before the vacations, we had done an activity based on chapter number 1 of your book. Today, we are going to start the chapter number 1. So, without further much ado, let's begin with the class. Hello everyone. In our first chapter for computer classes, we are going to be discussing the generations of computers. Basically, we are going to be talking about the history of computers, how the computers came into being the way they are today. If you look at this small picture, small image on the screen, you see the way this is the evolution of man, how man from monkey into an ape, into a primate, uh, uh, into a human being, and today this is called the evolution of human beings. Similarly, even the computers evolved. The first computers were very complex, very elaborate, very big. They were time consuming, and with the need of the hour, the way people wanted to change, people wanted more and more, so people kept becoming better and better. I'll give you a small example. If you pick up any technology, and if you go back even 10 years of that technology, you will realize that technology has changed a lot. A mobile phone that was 10 years ago not very impressive now has become very impressive. It's become very fast, a very important part of our lives. From laptops to cars to bikes to televisions, everything is becoming better and better by the day. And this process of becoming better is known as evolution. Okay, today we are going to be talking about the various generations of computers. So let us begin. Let us begin with the first line. The computer that we see today has not developed overnight. It has taken decades of human efforts to see the computer in its present form. The timeline of the history of computers can be understood with reference to 5 generations of computers. Each generation of computers is characterized by a major technological development that fundamentally changed the way computers operate, resulting in increasingly smaller, cheaper, powerful, and more efficient and reliable devices. Let us learn about each generation in detail. So, what has happened is the computer that you see today, it was not developed this way. Okay, when it was developed, it was a totally different machine, and slowly and steadily, with the passage of time, computers have changed from one form to another. And the difference between one form and another is the invention of a particular technology, that special technology. The moment that special technology came, the computers became better. Then another special technology came, then they jumped one more generation. So every time a new and special technology came, the computers kept on jumping one generation to another generation. All right, and also the more they jumped from one generation to another, they became better, more reliable, more faster. You will understand only this, you can understand this only when you go back into the first generation of computer and find out how complex they were. And then when you compare them to today's computers, you would realize that how efficient of today's computers are. Okay, so let us discuss the various generations of computers. Before we begin, let us read what is written here. Generation is generation, sorry. Generation in a computer terminology means change in technology based on how it is being used. Alright, we'll understand this as and when we go further. Let us begin with our first generation computers. Now, there are certain things that you need to remember about each generation. First, the time period. From which year to which year did the first generation or a particular generation lasted? Number two, what was the special technology that was particular to that particular generation? All right, so these are two separate things that you must remember to differentiate. How do you differentiate with one generation to another? You have to find out the time period of a computer and the technology that the computer is using. So let us begin. The first generation computers lasted from 1940s to 1956. How many years? 16 years. Yeah, my math is correct, right? Yeah. So 16 years. The year 1940 to 56 saw the development of first generation of computers. The characteristics of the computers in this generation were: first, the technology at this stage was based on vacuum tubes. You see these on the right hand side, these are called vacuum tubes, alright? And magnetic drums. Vacuum tubes to be very precise. So the first generation computers had vacuum tubes. They had no monitor, no keyboard. Computers at this time were very large and expensive. They used a great deal of electricity and generated a lot of heat. Alright. Now the first generation computers were, first they used a vacuum tube. Next, they had no monitor and keyboard. Now if you look at this small image that you see here, if you see the small image on this page at the bottom of the screen, there's a man sitting on a table. You see, this was the computer. This entire thing, a first generation computer, was very big. It used to occupy a full hall. All right, it required a lot of energy, okay, and it generated a lot of heat also, a lot of heat. Even now if you see some machines, when they are operated, they start to give out heat, but this is nothing in comparison to what was the first generation computers. They were very big, very expensive, very high on energy consumption, very high on heat release, okay. Because they were so big, they could not be used by one person, all right. They were only used by big universities. Scientists used to use them for their scientific research work, all right. So the first generation of computers were not available to common people. You, me, we will not be able to. It is only a big company or a big university or a big college or a big science firm would be able to have a big room to accommodate a first generation computer. Alright. Some of the examples of first generation computers, if you see this line here for me, some of the examples of the first generation computers are ENIAC, EDVAC, UNIVAC 1. Sorry for that. Now, these were the names of different computers. ENIAC, ENIAC, it's called ENIAC, okay. EDVAC, okay, and UNIVAC 1. Now, let us know more. UNIVAC 1 was truly the first modern computer. All subsequent computers are improved versions based on computing advances. So, ENIVAC, ENIAC, EDVAC were the babies of the first generation computers. UNIVAC 1 started the new race. UNIVAC 1 was a special computer. Even in the first generation computers, it was better than the others. Alright, if you see UNIVAC 1 is the image of the UNIVAC 1 is given here. Now, so the first generation computer ended in 1956. So the second generation will begin from, yes, you guessed it right, 1956. This finished, that started. Second generation computers. The years 1956 to 1963 saw the development of second generation of computers. The characteristics of these computers were: vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. Remember I told you a special technology. So the second generation computers had transistors being replaced by vacuum tubes. A new technology that changed the first to second generation was transistors. You see the small image that is given here of a transistor here. This is the transistor. What it did was it replaced the vacuum tubes. Now, vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. One transistor replaced 40 vacuum tubes. That means for 40 vacuum tubes, you could have one transistor. Alright. Computers became smaller, faster, and cheaper as compared to the first generation. Remember, they have still not become the computer that you see in the school, at your houses, or anywhere. They were still big, but the only difference is they were a little smaller in comparison to the first generation. It's like, what is the size of, how big is a cow? A cow is a little smaller than an elephant, but it is very big in comparison to a dog. Alright. Similarly, even the second generation of computers were smaller in comparison to the first generation, but still they were big. They occupied a lot of space. Alright. Point number 3, they use less energy than before. Of course, as I said, things become better and better. So earlier the first generation computers used to use a lot of energy. Now they use a little bit lesser energy, but still they were using a lot of energy, not possible for a one person to keep at home. All right, it was possible to do programming in these computers. Okay, now you could make programs in computers. You could tell the computer, if I say this, you do this, then you do that. 2 steps, 3 steps level program. You could teach the computer. All right. They point number 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4, it was possible to do programming with computer. Number 5, computers during this stage were mainly used in atomic energy industry. Okay, and once again, not being used by ordinary people. They were used by atomic energy industry. Okay, where atomic energy was being used. Atoms were being split to produce energy, to produce electricity. Because it required a huge amount of calculation, that is why they used a computer. It was required for them. All right. Next, the last point. Some examples of second generation computers are UNIVAC 3. Remember, that was UNIVAC 1 in first generation. Here it is UNIVAC 3. The IBM 1401. Okay. The IBM 7000. The NCR 300 series. Burroughs B5000 and 200 series. Burroughs B5000 and 200 series. Burroughs is also a company. These are various companies that are making computers. But even now, if you look at this image, IBM 140, you see this lady sitting, and you see all these big Almira type things. These are all one computer. They are not different computers. They are still one computer. So they were still very big. Okay, difficult to handle for a single individual. Now comes the third generation of computers. The computers developed from 1964. Remember, the previous generation was 1964. Now begins the third generation. The computers developed during 1964 to 71 were called the third generation computers. The characteristics of computers in this generation were: transistors were replaced by integrated circuits known as ICs. Okay, also known as chips. Okay, you see the small image of the small integrated circuit, also known as IC. It increased the speed and efficiency of computers. Once again, third generation, even faster than the first and second generation. Computers became smaller, cheaper than their earlier counterparts. Again, they became even more smaller. First it was very big, then smaller and smaller. All right. Computers became smaller and cheaper. Keyboard, monitor and operating systems were first introduced in this generation. Before this, keyboard and monitor were not available. All right. So the keyboard and monitors first came in this generation, the third generation. Also, a very unique thing came, that is known as the operating system. Now, we have discussed about the operating system in our previous discussions. Those people who have not, you can go back to the main GCR room and find out. Now, if you next point is some of the examples of third generation computers are UNIVAC 900 series, IBM 360, ICL 1900, and Burroughs 6700. Now, if you look to the right side, if you look at this "Let us know more" section, sorry for that. Okay, the IC, also called a chip, is a small electronic device made from a special material called semiconductor. ICs can contain more than 1 million electronic components per chip. An IC has got many small chips. If you look at it very closely, if you know as in when you grow up, you study hardware, you will understand that an IC or an integrated circuit, it says the word integrated, where lots of circuits are integrated together. All right, and it can contain many chips. Now, another small quick fact here, if you look at it, the integrated circuit was invented by Jack Kilby. All right. Next comes the fourth generation computers. Now, fourth generation computers is the one that we are using now. All right. The fourth generation computers began in 1972 and it is still continuing. The fourth generation computers started from 1972. These computers are still in use and are being developed further. We are making better and better, but the technology remains the same. We still have the same technology. The computers of this generation are known as modern computers. All right, they are known as Modern computers. So next time the question comes, which generation computers are known as modern computers? You know it. It's supposed to be generation 4. Alright. Now, microprocessor chips were developed at this stage. So the first generation had vacuum tubes, the second generation had integrated circuits, the third generation had ICs. The first generation had vacuum tubes, the second generation had transistors, the third had integrated circuits, and microprocessor chips were in the fourth generation. Now, when the microprocessor chip was developed, the fourth generation computers began. Even now, our computers use what is known as a microprocessor. 0 and 1 were coded to do arithmetical operations. These are known as binary numbers. 0 and 1 is the language that the computer understands. Okay, they are known as binary numbers. Okay, we can talk to the computer with the help of some translators. Okay, we tell the translator converts it to 0 and 1. That you will understand later on. Some computers of this generation were very small. They can fit into the palm of a hand. Your mobile phone is an example of the fourth generation computer. Okay, it is as big as your hand. It can fit into your hand. In fact, just compare it to the first generation. Remember, the first generation had the entire room. The second generation had big refrigerator size computers. The third generation had one big desktop, huge desktop, all right, big monitor, big CPU, all right. And imagine the fourth generation. The fourth generation computers can fit into your hand. They are as big as your mobile phone. Even your mobile phone is a computer. In 1981, IBM introduced its first computer for home user, and in 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh. Okay, it is known as the Macintosh. If you look at figure number 1.7 here, this is known as the personal computer, also known as PC. Personal computer in the sense that this computer can be used by one person. Remember, I had said in the first generation, no one person could use the computer. It was very costly, very big, needed a lot of energy, so it was used by an entire organization. This was a personal computer. Every person could have it for themselves. All right. The first one, it was introduced in 1981 by IBM, and in 1984 another one that was introduced was by Apple computers. The size of the computer has decreased with improvement in integrated circuits. Alright, this resulted in smaller size and greater speed. Okay, now what has happened is we are making smaller and smaller computers because we can make integrated circuits. The ICs are becoming smaller and smaller by the day, and because they are smaller, they are becoming very faster. Alright, you can have lots of ICs in a small space, and because there are lots of ICs, they can make a lot of processing of data. Okay, now comes the fifth generation. This is the future. Okay, this is what we can expect in the days to come. Okay, now the fifth generation computer, the development in this computer has not stopped. These days scientists are working on fifth generation computers. As and when you people grow up and you study computers, most probably you will also be working on the development of fifth generation. Okay, so far we have not been able to make that one new technology that takes us to the fifth generation. We still have the same old ICs and microprocessors. Okay, point number one of the fifth generation. In the fifth generation computers, the VLSI technology has become ultra large scale integration technology. Okay, the VLSI was very large scale integration. Now it has become ultra large scale. The microprocessor is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and because it is becoming smaller and smaller, what is happening is resulting in the production of microprocessor chips having 10 million electronic components. One chip can have as many as 10 million components. All right. Next point, this generation is based on parallel processing hardware and artificial intelligence software. Artificial intelligence, so far whatever computers we use are programmed by some software maker. Any app that you use TikTok, you use WhatsApp, you use Facebook, it is developed by a particular company. They give it to you and you use it. If something goes wrong, they will come to know and they will make a new version of that and they will give it to you. Okay, they will keep doing the changes themselves. But artificial intelligence is when the computer starts to think on its own. The moment computer starts to make changes on its own, it starts to work, it finds there's a problem, and the computer will make the changes themselves. All right, imagine if I were to tell you, you go to a room, and this room is full of artificial intelligence. All the electronic appliances are connected to a computer, and the computer is very, very smart. The computer calculates the temperature of this room, compares it to my body temperature, okay, and also compares it to my taste. The computer knows that in the past I had put on the AC at this temperature, I had put on the fan at this regulator. Okay, the computer is reading, and the next time I enter, the computer knows this man likes this. All right, so the computer makes the adjustments on its own. All right, that is when the computer is learning on its own. It is called artificial intelligence. The computer is becoming self-learning, and that is what fifth generation computer is all about. There are lots of movies about fifth generation computers, lots of animation where the computer becomes smart on its own. You can watch them on yourself. There's a very popular movie called iRobot. If you want to watch it, you can just Google, you will be able to find iRobot. Very interesting movie about fifth generation computers. Next, the last point. These computers will be based on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the branch of computer science that deals with making the computers think and take decisions like human beings. It is like, for example, a plane. A pilot is flying, all right? The plane has got a computer. The pilot is very, very angry. The pilot wants to crash the plane. Okay, he's not happy with something. All right, he's angry. He's become villain. So he tries to move the plane into a mountain or something. If there is artificial intelligence, the autopilot, that is the computer on the plane, will not allow him to do that. The computer will not allow him to do the nonsense. It will stop him. Oh no, what you're doing is wrong. All right, you can't be going in that direction. Not only that, the planes can talk to each other. A plane is taking off, and that plane is coming from in that direction. So the plane can talk. So you go right, I go left. I can go up, you can go down. So the planes talk to each other and communicate so that they don't have a crash in the air. Okay, and the same technology is being applied on cars, on trains, where there is something called anti-collision, where the computer finds out on its own and starts to react. And there are lots of these places where the computer learns on its own. Okay, this is the technology of fifth generation. Okay, now if you look at this last two boxes, one is a quick fact and let us know more. Quick fact: it is important to note that with each generation of computers, the computing speed has increased and the size of the computer has decreased. It has become ulta. The smaller the computer, the faster the computer. Alright, with each generation, the computer is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and the computer is becoming faster and faster and faster. Let us know more. Scientists are trying to develop artificial intelligence, AI, in computers. Active research work is going all over the world. The aim of AI is to make computers think as human beings. Okay, just like human beings, they can find out if a human being is doing something wrong, it will not allow the human being to do something wrong. Alright, or you never know. What if the computer becomes a bad boy? Okay, so let us just teach the human beings a lesson. It can happen. It is thinking on its own. No, we'll not talk about that. That is a very sad way to look at it. Artificial intelligence is the fifth generation of computers. Okay, with that we come to the end of today's discussion. I'll be posting a small small activity following this video, so kindly follow up on the activity. Okay, with that, this is Alok sir saying bye.
And that's the end.